Commander, your top warriors just abandoned their combat rations to feed the humans paperwork, and Fleet Admiral Koreth is demanding an explanation within the hour. Vekthar's claws dug into the armrest of his command chair. On the main view screen, the Fleet Admiral's facial ridges were flattened in what could only be described as barely controlled. According to YouTube analytics, 98% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, you'll help support the channel and never miss fresh content. Yuri. Behind Vekthar, through the open doorway to the adjacent administrative bay, he could hear the human humming something while her fingers clattered across that primitive input device she insisted on using. Tactical Officer Rishka, repeat that, Vekthar said, though he'd heard her perfectly well the first time. Rishka's ears were pinned back, her tail held rigid in a posture of extreme discomfort. Sir, warrior cubs Pakri and Teshlo have placed their ritual fasting rations on the human administrative assistant's workspace. They are currently observing her. They refuse to return to training. Show me. The Admiral's voice could have cut through hull plating. Vekthar gestured, and the communications officer switched the feed. The image that appeared made Vekthar's blood run cold. There, at her cluttered desk, covered in what humans called sticky notes and file folders, sat Jordan. The human female was typing away at her keyboard with focused concentration, occasionally sipping from a mug that proclaimed "World's Okayest Employee" in garish letters. That wasn't the problem. The problem was the two adolescent Krenth warriors seated on either side of her desk, perfectly still in the hunting crouch, their daily protein rations carefully placed atop her scattered papers. Raw jackal meat, still dripping, soaking into what appeared to be supply requisition forms. The problem was that these cubs had been fasting for 2 days as part of their discipline training. The problem was that they were supposed to be in combat drills right now. The problem was that warrior cubs did not share food, ever, especially not with prey species. "Can you guys maybe not put raw meat on my keyboard?" Jordan said without looking up from her screen, using one finger to nudge a piece of meat away from her mouse. "I just cleaned this thing yesterday." The cubs didn't move. Pakri, the male, had begun making a sound deep in his chest. A rhythmic, resonant sound that Vekthar recognized with dawning horror. "Is that cub purring?" Fleet Admiral Koreth's voice had gone dangerously quiet. "Impossible," Rishka whispered beside him. "Warriors don't purr until they've earned their first battle scars. It's a biological impossibility for cubs to—" The sound was unmistakable. Both cubs were purring now, watching the human work with expressions that Vekthar had never seen on Krenth faces before. Something soft, something vulnerable, something that had been bred out of their species 800 years ago. "Commander Vekthar," the Admiral said, and there was a note in his voice that made every warrior on the bridge stand straighter. "You have 1 hour to resolve this situation and report. If those cubs have bonded with that prey animal, if they have violated the sacred protocols of warrior development, if they have compromised their training over a human—" He paused. "You will be removed from command, and the human will be removed from the ship, permanently." The screen went dark. Vekthar rose from his chair and stalked toward the administrative bay, Rishka close behind him. Around them, the bridge crew pretended to focus on their stations while watching from the corners of their eyes. When he entered the bay, Jordan glanced up briefly. "Oh, hey, Commander. Listen, I'm almost done with the fuel consumption reports, but someone put meat on half of them, so I'm having to redo the calculations for Deck 7. The cubs' heads swiveled toward Vekthar in perfect unison. Their ears flattened, their haunches tensed. They positioned themselves between the commander and the human's desk. They were protecting her, from him. "Pakri, Teshlo." Vekthar let his voice drop into the dominant frequency that compelled obedience in all juvenile Krenth. "Return to training. Now." Neither cub moved. Jordan stopped typing. Are they in trouble? Because honestly, I think they're just trying to be nice. It's kind of sweet, in a carnivorous sort of way." "Sweet." Rishka's tail lashed once, Human, Jordan. These warriors have violated 3 sacred protocols. They have abandoned discipline training. They have shared sacred rations. They have disobeyed a direct order from their commanding officer. Her voice rose slightly. And they are protecting a prey species from a superior warrior. Huh. Jordan looked at the cubs, who were still in protective stances, still purring. She reached out slowly and pushed another piece of meat to the side of her papers. Yeah, but they're kids, right? How old are they? They are 13 solar cycles, Vekthar said stiffly. So like 12 in human years. Jordan tilted her head. That's middle school. They're basically babies. They are warriors. They're babies who somebody taught to be warriors. Jordan's tone shifted, something sharper underneath the casual words. Look, I appreciate the gesture, guys, I really do. But I brought a sandwich. She reached into a small container beside her desk and pulled out what appeared to be bread, wrapped around various plant materials and processed meat. Both cubs' eyes went wide. They watched with absolute fascination as the human bit into the sandwich, chewed, swallowed. Their purring intensified. Then Teshlo, the female cub, did something that made Vekthar's world tilt sideways. She picked up her own ration, her sacred warrior's ration that she'd gone hungry for 2 days to earn, and gently placed it closer to Jordan's hand. An offering, a feeding behavior, the kind of thing a cub would do for a parent. A behavior that hadn't existed in Krenth society for 8 centuries. Commander? Rishka's voice was barely a whisper. We need to contact the Xenopsychology Division, right now. Vekthar was already moving toward the communications panel, his mind racing through protocols, through possibilities, through the sheer impossibility of what he was witnessing. Behind him, Jordan's voice drifted across the bay. Seriously, though, can we establish a no raw meat on the paperwork rule? I'm running out of clean requisition forms. One of the cubs chirped. An actual chirp, like an infant seeking attention. They had 57 minutes to figure out what was happening before Fleet Command removed the human from the ship. 57 minutes to understand how a human administrative assistant had accidentally triggered behaviors that the Krenth military had spent 800 years suppressing. 57 minutes before everything changed. Vekthar stood at his full height, fur bristling along his spine in the classic dominance display that had made junior warriors flee in terror for his entire career. His lips pulled back to reveal 3 rows of serrated teeth. He let out the low, rumbling growl that marked an alpha warrior asserting control. Pakri yawned. Teshlo licked her paw and rubbed it over her ear. Neither cub moved from their protective positions around Jordan's desk. This isn't possible, Rishka breathed beside him. Commander, your dominance rating is 9.7 out of 10. Cubs should be cowering. Should be, Vekthar agreed grimly. He tried again, adding the subsonic frequency that triggered instinctive submission in young Krenth. Both cubs turned their heads toward him with expressions that could only be described as polite disinterest, then immediately returned their attention to Jordan, who was still typing. Okay, so fuel consumption for the mess hall is up 30%, Jordan muttered, squinting at her screen. That can't be right. Did someone order extra protein rations? She glanced at the meat currently decorating her desk. Oh, yeah, that explains it. Pakri chirped again and nudged his ration closer to her elbow. I'm good, buddy, but thanks, Jordan said absently, highlighting a column of numbers. The cub's purring got louder. Vekthar activated his communicator. Bridge, connect me with the Krenth Child Development Institute. Priority override. While he waited, Rishka attempted her own approach. She moved into what their training manuals called the tactical retrieval position, a specific posture designed to extract cubs from dangerous situations. Low stance, non-threatening but authoritative, combined with a specific pheromone signature that triggered following behavior in juveniles. She held the position for a full 30 seconds. Teshlo looked at her, tilted her head, and went back to watching Jordan type. Tactical Officer Rishka has a 98% success rate with juvenile retrieval, Rishka said, her voice climbing toward panic. 98%. This shouldn't. The communicator crackled. Child Development Institute. Specialist Theron. Speaking. Specialist, this is Commander Vekthar of the warship Talon's Edge. I need immediate consultation. We have 2 warrior cubs exhibiting impossible behavior patterns. Define impossible, Commander. They are purring without battle scars. They are ignoring dominance displays from a 9.7 rated alpha. They are protecting a prey species. They are attempting to feed said prey species. They refuse tactical retrieval protocols. Vekthar paused. And they will not obey direct orders. Silence on the other end. Then, Commander, cubs don't purr. It's biologically locked until they achieve warrior status. Cubs don't bond with prey. The hunting instinct overrides any other behavioral response. Cubs don't disobey pack hierarchy. Are you certain you're observing cubs and not malfunctioning adults? I am certain. What prey species are we discussing? Human. Female, administrative worker. More silence. Commander, I need to see this. Transmitting my credentials now. I'm boarding the next transport to your location. Do not separate the cubs from the human. Do not. If they formed some kind of attachment, forcing separation could trigger psychological collapse. Psychological collapse? Rishka's ears went flat. Sir, we're talking about warrior cubs. They're trained to withstand interrogation, isolation, combat stress. They're 13 cycles old, the specialist interrupted. They're children in warrior training. There's a difference, tactical officer. Jordan's voice cut through the conversation. Hey, does anyone else want coffee? I'm making a pot. Both cubs immediately stood and moved closer to her, flanking her as she rose from her desk and headed toward the small beverage station in the corner of the bay. They're following her, Vekthar said unnecessarily. Cubs don't follow prey, Specialist Theron said through the communicator. Cubs hunt prey or ignore prey. There is no following behavior in our species toward non-Krenth. Jordan poured dark liquid into her mug, then glanced down at the cubs sitting at attention on either side of her. You guys want some? Oh, wait, you're like cats, right? Cats shouldn't have coffee. She chuckled. Probably for the best. You're already vibrating. They were. Both cubs were purring so loudly that Vekthar could feel it in his chest from across the bay. Pakri reached up and very carefully, very deliberately, placed one paw on Jordan's leg. Not a hunting gesture, not an attack posture, a touch-seeking behavior, comfort-seeking. The kind of thing Krenth infants did with their parents before the warrior reformation 800 years ago. Specialist Theron, Vekthar said slowly. How fast can you get here? 6 hours. Make it 3. Commander, that's not 3 hours, Specialist. Whatever is happening here, it's escalating. Vekthar watched as Teshlo joined her brother, both cubs now leaning against the human's legs while she sipped her coffee and scrolled through something on a datapad. And we have no idea what happens next. Jordan looked up, noticed the cubs, and sighed. Guys, I need to get back to work. You can't just attach yourselves to my legs. She paused. Oh no, you're like Velcro, aren't you? Both cubs chirped in unison. Great, Jordan muttered. This is my life now, professional meat desk manager and apparently cub furniture. But she was smiling as she said it, and she very carefully didn't shake them off as she shuffled back toward her desk. 2 warrior cubs pressed against her sides. Fleet Command is going to lose their minds, Rishka whispered. Vekthar couldn't disagree. Specialist Theron arrived in 2 hours and 40 minutes, accompanied by 3 additional xenopsychology experts and what appeared to be half of the Krenth Behavioral Science Division. They found Jordan in Conference Room 7, sitting cross-legged on the floor with her tablet in her lap, working through inventory reports. Pakri was draped across her left leg. Teshlo had her head resting on Jordan's knee. Both cubs were asleep, purring in sync. I couldn't leave them, Jordan explained when the specialists entered. They followed me to the bathroom. All of you watching through the security feeds was already weird enough. Dr. Kashara, head of the xenopsychology team, approached slowly. Her scanning device hummed as she took readings. The pheromone profile is consistent with parent-offspring bonding, the kind we see in historical records from before the Reformation. Before we bred it out of ourselves, you mean, Theron said quietly. We didn't breed it out. We suppressed it through cultural conditioning and environmental factors. Dr. Kashara's tail swished in agitation. These cubs should not be capable of this behavior. They were raised in standard warrior protocols from birth. No parental contact beyond initial nursing, group dormitories, competition-based hierarchy training. Uh-huh, Jordan said, not looking up from her tablet. And where are their parents? The silence stretched long enough that Jordan did look up. Oh, she said softly. Oh no. Battle of the Helix Nebula, Rishka supplied. Both cubs lost their family units in the same engagement. Standard protocol placed them directly into accelerated warrior training. Jordan stared at them. You put orphaned kids into boot camp. We gave them purpose, structure, a path to honor their fallen. You put traumatized children into boot camp, Jordan interrupted. Kids who just lost everyone they knew. And your solution was more violence and discipline? It's how we create warriors, Vekthar said stiffly. It's how you create broken kids in warrior costumes. Jordan's voice had gone flat. Where do they sleep? The barracks, Theron said. With the other cubs in training. Barracks, not rooms, not homes, barracks. Jordan looked down at the sleeping cubs. How many other cubs are in there? 43 in this ship's youth training division. And how many have families? Dr. Kashara consulted her datapad. Families are not part of warrior development. Cubs are raised communally. Jordan was quiet for a long moment. Then she said very carefully, That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Every Krenth in the room bristled. Vekthar felt his claws extend involuntarily. Excuse me? Dr. Kashara's voice dropped into a dangerous register. You heard me. Jordan shifted slightly, and both cubs immediately stirred, pressing closer to her. You're telling me you took infants away from any kind of family structure, stuck them in group housing, trained them for combat as toddlers, and then act surprised when orphaned cubs latch onto the first adult who pays attention to them without barking orders? The human is correct, Specialist Theron said quietly. Everyone turned to stare at him. Our juvenile mortality rate is 47%, always has been. We attributed it to weak cubs failing to adapt. But what if? He paused. What if we were wrong? We created the greatest warrior culture in the galaxy, Rishka protested. At what cost? Theron gestured to the cubs. Look at them. Actually look. They're not defective. They're not broken. They're desperately trying to be children with the only adult who's treating them like children. Jordan scratched behind Teshlo's ear without thinking about it. The cubs' purring intensified. I give them attention while I work, Jordan said. That's it. I don't ignore them. I don't yell. I just let them exist near me. Sometimes I talk to them about my reports. Boring stuff. Fuel consumption. Supply requisitions. She shrugged. They seem to like it. Safe presence, Dr. Kashara murmured. They associate her with safety. With rest, with... She looked up sharply. With maternal care behavior. I'm not their mom, Jordan said quickly. No, Theron agreed. But you're the first adult who's acted like their well-being matters more than their combat performance. Pakri woke up, yawned widely, and chirped. He looked at Jordan, then at the circle of adult Krenth surrounding them, and immediately pressed closer to the human. He's afraid, Rishka said, stunned. He thinks we're a threat. Well, you did try to separate him from the one safe thing he's found, Jordan pointed out. So yeah, he's probably not thrilled with the giant predators looming over us. Vekthar's communicator buzzed. Fleet Admiral Koreth. Commander, report. 1 hour has elapsed. Vekthar looked at the human on the floor, the cubs using her as a security blanket, the team of experts surrounding them with expressions ranging from horror to fascination. Sir, he said slowly, I believe we need to discuss revisions to our youth development protocols. Explain. We may have been doing this wrong, Admiral, for the past 800 years. The line went silent. Then, I'm convening an emergency council session. You have 12 hours to compile a full report. And, Commander? Yes, sir. Do not let that human out of your sight. She's sitting on my conference room floor with enemy rations soaking into her reports, sir. I don't think she's going anywhere. Jordan raised her hand. Can someone get me my coffee mug? It's still on my desk. Also, maybe a pillow. This floor is really uncomfortable. Teshlo chirped in agreement. The emergency council session took place via holographic transmission, with representatives from 17 Krenth worlds watching as Jordan sat in the conference room, still on the floor, still working on her tablet, still serving as a living security blanket for 2 warrior cubs. High Chancellor Vareth's image flickered at the head of the virtual table. Human Jordan, you are not on trial here. Could have fooled me, Jordan muttered, highlighting another fuel discrepancy. However, your presence has triggered a crisis in our youth development system. We need to understand what you did. Jordan looked up finally. I didn't do anything. You caused warrior cubs to exhibit extinct bonding behaviors. I existed near them, Jordan interrupted. That's it. I worked at my desk. They showed up. They watched me work. I didn't shoo them away. She gestured at the cubs, who were awake now but still pressed against her sides. Kids need adults who aren't constantly testing them or training them or demanding performance. They need someone who just exists, calmly, predictably. That is not how warriors are forged, another council member stated. No, it's how children survive, Jordan shot back. Warriors come later, if the kids survive long enough to become warriors. Dr. Kashara stepped forward. Honored Council, our research over the past 6 hours has revealed something critical. These cubs were attempting to feed human Jordan their rations. We initially interpreted this as aberrant behavior. It is aberrant, Vareth said. No, Chancellor, it's regurgitation-adjacent care behavior. Dr. Kashara pulled up data on the holographic display. Infant Krenth, before the Reformation, would bring food to their parents. It was a bonding mechanism, a way of saying, I am yours, you are mine. We share resources. We thought we'd eliminated this behavior. We did eliminate it, Rishka said. We suppressed it, Theron corrected. The instinct remained. These cubs weren't malfunctioning. They were desperately trying to form a family bond with the only adult who created the conditions for bonding to occur. Which conditions? Vareth leaned forward. Jordan sighed. I worked at my desk. I did boring reports. I was calm, predictable, not threatening. I acknowledged them when they showed up. I set boundaries, like, don't put meat on my keyboard, but I didn't punish them for trying. She scratched Teshlo's ear again. I treated them like they were allowed to exist without earning it. The silence in the room was absolute. Our cubs must earn their place through performance, a council member said, but his voice lacked conviction. They're children, Jordan said flatly. They shouldn't have to earn the right to be cared about. Vekthar watched the council members' faces. He saw the cracks forming in 8 centuries of certainty. The 47% juvenile mortality rate, Specialist Theron said quietly. We've always classified those deaths as training failures, combat accidents, weak specimens failing to adapt. But council members, what if we were wrong? He pulled up statistics. Human military forces, with similar combat training intensity, have a juvenile mortality rate of 0.003%. The difference is that human young are not in military training. They have families, stability, safe adults. We sacrifice those things to create perfect warriors, Vareth said. We sacrifice children to create traumatized survivors who happen to be good at violence, Jordan corrected. There's a difference. Pakri chirped and nuzzled against Jordan's arm. She absently patted his head while scrolling through her tablet. What do you propose, human Jordan? Vareth asked finally. I propose you let kids be kids. Train them for combat later, sure, whatever. But maybe let them have someone who gives a damn about them first. She paused. Also, for the love of God, stop housing orphans in barracks. Get them actual rooms. Maybe stuffed animals or something. Stuffed animals? Comfort items. Soft things. Objects that provide psychological security. Jordan held up her coffee mug. Humans have comfort objects. Apparently, Krenth cubs trying to give me meat rations is their version of a comfort object exchange. They were trying to trade. Dr. Kashara's eyes widened. They were attempting reciprocal care. They saw you as a potential parent figure and initiated the bonding protocol. And I acknowledged it by not freaking out, setting gentle boundaries and letting them hang around. Jordan shrugged. Basic attachment theory. Any human psychologist could have told you this. Vareth was quiet for a long moment. Commander Vekthar, effective immediately. You will implement a trial program. Human Jordan is appointed cultural liaison for youth development. All cubs currently in training on your ship will have access to... He paused. Safe adult presence during non-training hours. And the cubs? Rishka asked. Pakri and Teshlo remain with Human Jordan during her work hours. We will monitor their development compared to standard protocols. Jordan raised her hand. Do I get a say in this? No, Varath said simply. You broke 800 years of tradition. You will help us fix what we broke. The hologram flickered. Council adjourned. The transmission ended. Jordan looked down at the cubs, who were both purring again. Well, she said to them, guess you two are my assistants now. She glanced at Vekthar. They're going to need desks, small ones, and maybe some paper so they stop putting meat on mine. Pakri chirped enthusiastically. Yeah, buddy, you're very helpful, extremely helpful. But she was smiling. 3 weeks later, Jordan's workspace had undergone significant modifications. 2 small desks flanked her own, each equipped with datapads loaded with tactical mathematics homework and strategic reading assignments. Pakri sat at the left desk, working through supply chain logistics problems. Teshlo occupied the right, practicing alien language translations. Neither cub had put meat on Jordan's keyboard in 12 days. Progress. Okay, so if Ship A needs to resupply Ship B, but Ship C is between them. Jordan leaned over to check Pakri's work. Yeah, you've got it. Nice job. The cub practically vibrated with pride. And purring. Always purring now. Vekthar entered the administrative bay, stopping short at the scene. Both cubs were still in their training regimen, physical conditioning, combat drills, tactical education, but now they had 4 hours daily of what Jordan called decompression time at her desk. The difference was startling. Pakri had gained weight. Teshlo's fur had taken on a healthier sheen. Both cubs engaged better in training, according to their instructors, because they weren't operating in constant survival mode. Commander, Jordan said without looking up. The other cubs want to know if they can have desk time too. I have received 43 requests, Vekthar confirmed. Fleet Command has authorized expansion of the program. We are recruiting humans from administrative positions across the fleet. Make sure they understand the rules. No yelling. No performance demands during desk time. The cubs work on homework. The humans work on their jobs. Everyone coexists peacefully. Jordan finally glanced up. And for the love of all that's holy, teach them about the meat keyboard boundary. Rishka appeared in the doorway, carrying a tray. Human Jordan, I have brought the cubs their afternoon rations. And before you ask, I have also brought you something called hot chocolate. Both cubs perked up at hot chocolate. You taught them that phrase, didn't you? Jordan accused. Rishka's whiskers twitched in what might have been amusement. They asked for human juice. I conducted research. Of course you did. But Jordan was smiling as she accepted the mug. The cubs abandoned their homework immediately, crowding around her chair. Boundaries, Jordan reminded them. You each get 1 sip, then back to work. They chirped in unison. Vekthar watched as the human carefully shared her beverage with 2 warrior cubs who, by all traditional metrics, should have been hunting her. Instead, they were learning mathematics and drinking hot chocolate and purring loud enough to be heard 3 rooms away. The Galactic Council has requested your presence next month, Vekthar said. They want you to testify about Krenth child-rearing practices. Jordan groaned. Can I do it from here? I've got a deadline, and these two have a tactics exam next week. The council was quite insistent. The council can wait until I finish the quarterly reports. Jordan shooed the cubs back to their desks. Come on, assistants. Homework time. Pakri returned to his logistics problems. Teshlo picked up her language datapad. Both settled into comfortable silence, occasionally glancing at Jordan to confirm she was still there, still present, still safe, still theirs. You changed everything, Vekthar said quietly. Jordan shrugged, typing another line into her report. I just let kids be kids. You guys did the hard part, admitting you were wrong. She paused, then added, Also, seriously, can someone please explain to the new cubs about boundaries? I found meat rations in my filing cabinet this morning. Both cubs made sounds that could only be described as laughter. Yeah, laugh it up, Jordan muttered. But she was grinning. Outside the viewport, 3 more ships were joining the program. 17 human administrative staff had volunteered. 43 cubs would soon have desk time. 800 years of tradition, transformed by one human who refused to shoo away curious children. And somewhere in the administrative files, buried under corrected fuel reports and supply requisitions, were the original pages, still stained with meat rations that 2 desperate cubs had offered as a plea for connection. Jordan had kept them, just in case anyone ever forgot how this started.